Hello, Reddit. I'm Joel, 29, that I was supposed to be married last spring. It was going to be a backyard wedding at my parents' place. Something intimate but nice. Nothing extravagant. Just close friends, family, food, and the woman I thought I'd spend the rest of my life with. Instead, I ended up canceling everything and walking out on not just a relationship, but my entire family. This isn't just a story about heartbreak. It's a story about betrayal on the ugliest level you can imagine, and how far I was willing to go to make sure the people who ruined my life would never forget what they did. Let's rewind. My fiance's name was Madison. We'd been together 4 years. I met her through my sister. Actually, Madison was her college roommate. She was smart, confident, kind, and she always made people feel like they mattered. My parents loved her, especially my dad. Too much, apparently. But I didn't know that back then. Back then, I was just excited to marry the woman who made my life make sense. The wedding was planned for April 22nd. We were staying in my parents' house for the final week, mostly for convenience, because the venue was in their backyard and Madison's family was flying in from out of state. And that's when things started to feel off. It started with weird little shifts in energy. Madison started locking her phone. My dad got way too involved in wedding details. And every time they were in the same room, there was this vibe I couldn't explain, like I was the third wheel in my own relationship. I chalked it up to stress. Madison was snapping at me more than usual. Dad was making jokes about how marriage would knock the wind out of me. My mom seemed uncomfortable, but I figured she was just anxious about hosting. Then came the night everything shattered. 3 days before the wedding, I walked into the kitchen to grab a drink. It was around 1 a.m. Everyone had gone to bed, or so I thought. The kitchen light was off, but I heard voices, low, hushed voices coming from the sunroom at the back of the house. I stepped quietly down the hall. I didn't mean to eavesdrop, at least not at first. But when I heard my name, I froze. Madison's voice. He has no idea. Then my dad. He doesn't need to. We keep this tight. It goes away. My stomach turned. I didn't move. Couldn't. Madison again. I can't believe we did that. Then him. It was a mistake. One night. Just nerves. That's all. I wanted to vomit. I backed away slowly, quietly, got back to my room and locked the door. Madison came in an hour later, acting like nothing happened. Tried to cuddle up. I pretended to be asleep, but I didn't sleep that night. I just lay there in the dark, staring at the ceiling, letting every moment of the last week snap into place like a jigsaw puzzle from hell. The little glances, the way she laughed too loud at his jokes, the sudden tension between her and my mom. They slept together, my fiancé and my dad. You'd think I would have lost it, that I would have confronted them right then, blown everything up. But no, something in me snapped quietly. I realized I didn't want drama. I didn't want a scene. I didn't want explanations. I wanted a plan. I wanted them to regret it, deeply, permanently, publicly. So I stayed calm. Played dumb, pretended like nothing had changed. But every move I made after that night, it was calculated, and no one saw it coming. The next morning, I acted normal. Told Madison I was going into town to pick up supplies. Hugged my mom. Fist bumped my dad. He looked me in the eye and said, "Big day's almost here, huh?" I said, "Yeah, can't wait." What a liar. I wasn't picking up anything. I went to my best friend Ryan's place and told him everything. He offered to grab a bat and go full vigilante. But I had something better in mind. Over the next 48 hours, I set the trap. I gathered screenshots, pulled Madison's phone back up from our shared cloud. She forgot she'd logged into my iPad months ago and copied every message she'd ever sent to my dad. Yes, they had been talking for months. It wasn't a one-time thing. Yes, there were pictures. And yes, some of it made me want to throw up. But I didn't. I organized it into a folder, printed out the worst messages, and made copies. On the morning of the wedding, the backyard was beautiful. Chairs lined up, flowers everywhere. Madison getting her makeup done inside. My dad out front drinking coffee, acting like father of the year. Family everywhere. I walked straight past them, straight to the front altar. Then I turned to face the crowd as they were being seated, and said, "I have a few words before the ceremony." The crowd quieted down faster than I expected. My mom was already seated in the front row, dressed in pale blue, clutching her little purse. She looked confused. So did Madison's parents, sitting just behind her. My groomsmen stood near the side, exchanging glances. Everyone expected me to say something sweet. Maybe some thank you for coming speech. Some emotional pre-vow tears about how much I love Madison. Instead, I cleared my throat and looked straight at my dad, who was laughing with a guest and didn't notice right away, until I said his name. I want to start by thanking someone who made this entire day possible. A few people chuckled. Someone who's been heavily involved in the planning, more than I ever realized. Someone who's been closer to the bride than even I have. My dad stopped smiling. Madison came out of the house then, in her dress, makeup half done, confused. She caught my eye. I looked right at her and didn't blink. I continued. I found out 2 nights ago that my fiancée and my father have been sleeping together behind my back. The air got sucked out of the yard like a vacuum. People thought it was a joke at first, until I reached into my suit jacket and pulled out the folder. I have screenshots of texts going back 8 months, including photos, messages about sneaking around during our engagement, and planning to just wait it out so I wouldn't find out. There were gasps, audible gasps. Madison looked frozen. Her makeup artist was standing behind her with a brush in hand, mouth open. My mom clutched her chest. I walked down the aisle, slow, steady, and placed copies of the evidence in her lap. Then I turned to Madison's parents. You might want to see this too. My dad stood up, voice shaking. Joel, you're ruining everything. We can talk. You ruined everything the second you touched her. Then to the guests. The wedding is off. The reception is canceled. But I wanted you all to know the truth before I walked away. And I did. Just walked out the front gate while Madison dropped to the grass, sobbing, and my dad yelled my name over and over. I didn't even turn around. Ryan was waiting in his truck outside the neighborhood. We didn't say anything for a solid 5 minutes. Just drove. Finally, he asked, You good? No, I said. But that was step 1. Step 1. Oh yeah, I nodded. They're not getting away with just public shame. Because this wasn't just about a broken engagement. This was about betrayal from blood. And I wasn't finished yet. The next day, I moved out of my apartment and into a furnished Airbnb under a different name. Cut contact with Madison completely. Changed my number. Told my job I needed 2 weeks off, and since I had over 200 hours of PTO saved, they said yes. Then I went to work. I hired a lawyer. Not to sue Madison. She didn't have anything worth taking. But my father? He co-owned a small but successful contracting business that I had worked for during high school and early college. He'd once joked he'd leave it all to Marcus, my older brother. Turns out he never officially removed my name from the original LLC filing, which meant, technically, I still had a foot in the door. My lawyer helped me access every business transaction, invoice, and internal document for the past 3 years. And that's when I struck gold. My dad had been paying Madison under the table for marketing help since before we got engaged. Tens of thousands of dollars, all disguised as fake consulting. And she never reported a cent of it. I gave a few weeks. Let the embarrassment settle in. Let them squirm. Then I forwarded the financial files to the IRS and CC'd the local tax fraud division for good measure. 3 weeks after the non-wedding, I got a call from my mom. I didn't pick up. Then came an email. Joel, your father is being audited. We don't know what's going on, but I have a feeling you do. Please. He's not well. His blood pressure's through the roof. He's barely sleeping. I know you're hurt, but this is serious. I stared at the message for a long time. Then I replied. He was serious when he ked my fiancée too. No response. Didn't expect one. Later that month, I saw a post on Facebook. My dad's business page was marked as temporarily closed. Madison's Instagram was gone. Her LinkedIn? Deleted. One of my cousins told me she'd moved out of state to stay with family for a while. Meanwhile, I started therapy. I needed to make sure that what I was doing came from clarity, not obsession. And my therapist, bless her, didn't judge a damn thing. Just listened. Asked the right questions. Like, what are you hoping to feel when it's all over? And the answer was simple. Free. But freedom came slower than I thought. Because even after the public takedown, even after the business collapse, even after the audit and Madison's social disappearance, I still woke up some nights wondering why. Why her? Why him? Why me? But then I remembered what Ryan told me after the backyard scene. Sometimes the only way to win is to make sure they can never lie about who they are again. And that stuck, because now, when people in town ask what happened, they don't get the version where I was overreacting or insecure or too emotional. They get the truth, documented, delivered, and burned into their memory. My father lost his business. Madison lost her reputation, and I walked away with my dignity. But it's not over yet, because there's still one more piece to this story. The part that broke the last bit of loyalty I had to my family. And if you think the betrayal ended with Madison, wait till you hear what came next. After the IRS got involved, I thought that would be the end of it. My dad's business crumbled. Madison ghosted the planet. My entire wedding exploded in front of 90 people. What more could they even try? Apparently, a lot. Because just when I thought I could start rebuilding, my own brother stabbed me in the back. Let me explain. Marcus is 2 years older than me. Golden child. Daddy's favorite. Football scholarship. Fast cars, loud opinions. Always walked around like the world owed him something just for showing up. When I exposed the affair, he was supportive, texted me that night, and said, "I'm sorry, bro. That's messed up. You did the right thing." But a week later, he posted a pic having dinner with our dad. Smiling. No context. Just beer, steaks, and the caption, "Family first." So I called him. "Hey, that's your idea of family first now." He laughed. "Come on, Joel. He's still our dad." "No, he's your dad." Mine died the day he slept with my fiancée. He started trying to play mediator. Said dad was sorry, that he was messed up in the head and didn't know what he was doing. That I should move on. Move on? From your father crawling into your bed's place while you're planning a life together? I hung up. But that wasn't the worst of it. 3 days later, I got a letter from a lawyer. A cease and desist, claiming I had illegally obtained private business documents and intentionally damaged the reputation of a private individual and local company. Guess who signed the complaint? Marcus. He co-filed it with my dad. I was stunned, like fully speechless. I thought if anyone understood what I was doing, it'd be Marcus. The guy who watched me break my back for that business in college. The guy who knew I covered dad's ass on paperwork more than once. But no, he sided with the man who torched our family. I forwarded the letter to my own lawyer. She laughed and said, "They're panicking. That's not even enforceable. But they're trying to scare you." It didn't work. What did work? Rage. It boiled over. My grief turned into fuel. They wanted a war. I was ready to go nuclear. First thing I did, I posted the screenshots. Not all of them, just the PG-13 ones. Text between Madison and Dad that showed emotional manipulation, lies, planning behind my back. No graphic content, just enough to destroy any narrative they were building. And I tagged both of them. Madison didn't respond. My dad blocked me. Marcus? He called. "You crossed the line, Joel. You threw the first punch with that letter." I shot back. "Now you're going to feel it." He hung up. 3 days later, his wife messaged me on Instagram. She asked if she could call me privately. I agreed. And what she told me, it changed everything. Apparently, Madison wasn't Dad's first. He had a pattern. My brother's wife, Vanessa, had caught him hitting on her years ago, touching her back for too long. Creepy comments. She told Marcus. He shrugged it off. Then there were other stories. Family friends, babysitters, even an intern at the office years ago who quietly quit after feeling uncomfortable. Dad was a serial predator. He just finally got caught because this time the victim was my bride. I felt sick, but also laser-focused. This wasn't just about betrayal anymore. This was about justice. So I told Vanessa, "If you ever want to file something formally, I'll back you. I'll even fund the legal fees." She didn't say yes. Not yet. But I could hear it in her voice. She was thinking about it. I wasn't alone in this anymore. And that mattered more than I thought. In the meantime, I kept pushing. I made a post summarizing everything that had happened. No speculation. Just dates, facts, and receipts. It blew up. Hundreds of comments. Private messages from people I didn't even know. Some defending my dad, family's family. But most? Outraged. Turns out, there were a lot of people out there with Madison S. and Dad S. in their past, and they were sick of staying quiet. One guy even offered to make a short documentary. Another wanted me to speak on a podcast about toxic families and hidden abuse. But I said no, because this wasn't about fame. This was about burning the house down, so nothing like this could grow there again. Then, something unexpected happened. My mom reached out. Really reached out. Not a text, not an email, a handwritten letter. She apologized. She said she had known something was off with Dad for years, but was too scared to face the truth. She admitted that she'd found out about Madison the night before I did, that she'd overheard them in the same sunroom. She didn't confront them because she didn't know how, didn't want to ruin the wedding, didn't want to lose the image of the family. She begged me to meet her for coffee. I said yes. We met at a small cafe halfway between our cities. She looked 10 years older. She cried before she even sat down, said she'd filed for divorce the week after the non-wedding, that she was moving in with her sister, that she was proud of me, even if it took her too long to say it. And for the first time in months, I felt human again. Not victorious, not righteous, just tired, but seen. We talked for hours, and when she left, she hugged me so tight I thought I'd break. It didn't fix everything, but it was a start. That night, I lay in bed and thought about everything I'd lost. Madison, my wedding, my family, my peace. But I also thought about what I'd gained. Clarity, power, freedom from lies, and the knowledge that I could never be manipulated like that again. I wasn't done yet. Not completely. There was still one thing left to do. Something I've been planning since the day I walked out of that backyard in my wedding suit. The moment that would make sure my dad remembered, until his final breath, exactly who he hurt. After the cafe with my mom, I stayed quiet for a few weeks. Let them think it was over. Let Marcus believe the lawsuit scared me. Let Dad breathe like his sins had faded with time. But I wasn't done, because you don't just get to burn my life to the ground and walk away. Not when you're the man who raised me. Not when you taught me to trust and then ripped that trust in half behind my back. And not when you still had one thing left to lose. See, my father had one weakness. His legacy. He spent years telling anyone who'd listen how he built his company from nothing. How he raised strong sons. How he kept his family close. He was obsessed with image. Even after the IRS got involved, even after my mom left him and word got out about the affair, he still posted like he was a respected man, smiling on Facebook, sharing recycled motivational quotes. But I knew the truth. He was scared, broke, alone, and worst of all, he still didn't believe he'd done anything wrong. So I decided to give him one last lesson. I called my mom. Do you still have the deed to Grandpa's land? She paused. Yeah, it's still in my name. Your father never filed the transfer. Perfect. My grandfather's land was about 14 acres out near the river. He passed when I was 18, and it had been sitting untouched since then. No one in the family could agree what to do with it. But my father? He always said he wanted to build something big there. He even had architectural mock-ups done back in 2019 for a retreat house, whatever that meant. The only problem? He never legally owned the property, which meant he'd spent over $40,000 on preliminary development, on land that didn't belong to him. I asked my mom for the documents. She handed them over the next day. Then I called a friend from college, a guy who worked in property investment. Hey, I've got a parcel of land I'm thinking of selling off in pieces. It took about 3 days to list it, another 4 to get 2 offers. By the end of the week, I signed the deal, split the property into 4 lots, sold 3 of them to developers. The 4th, I kept for myself. A 2-acre square right at the front, the piece with the best view, best access, and the exact spot where my father had planned to break ground. I didn't tell him. Not yet. I waited until he called me. Yes, he called me. Blocked number. I let go to voicemail. Joel, I know you hate me. I know I F***ed up, but I'm dying. Literally. I've got heart failure. I'm not saying that to make you feel bad. I just want to talk before it's too late. I sat with that message for 2 hours. I didn't feel bad, but I did feel ready. I showed up the next day at his house. Didn't call ahead. He opened the door. Looked 20 years older. Thinner. Gray. A cane in his hand. Confused. You came. Yeah, I said, because I want to say something, and I want you to hear it from me. He stepped back. Let me in. The house was smaller than I remembered. No pictures of me on the walls anymore. Just him, Marcus, and his damn high school trophies. I sat down across from him, pulled out a folder. He flinched. Is that more evidence? No, I said. This is the paperwork for the land sale. His eyes darted up. You what? Grandpa's land. I sold it. Legally. It was in Mom's name. Still is. Actually, you never claimed it. His mouth opened, but no words came out. I kept going. You remember that spot you loved? With the rock clearing and the view of the river? You had plans for a cabin there. He nodded slowly. Well, bad news. That's mine now. I'm keeping it. The rest is sold. Developers are breaking ground next spring. He closed his eyes. I could see his lips trembling. I stood up. I wanted you to know. I wanted you to feel what it's like to lose the thing you've been dreaming of for years. The thing you thought was already yours. Silence. Then he whispered, I deserve that. I didn't expect that. I turned to leave. But before I hit the door, he called out again. Joel. I turned back. I don't know if I ever knew how to be a good man, he said. But I know what I did to you was evil. And I hope when I die, I don't see your face. Because I won't deserve it. I didn't respond. Just walked out. That was the last time I saw him alive. 2 weeks later, I got the call. He passed in his sleep. Heart failure. No dramatic ending. No explosion. Just silence. Marcus arranged the funeral. I didn't attend. Instead, I drove to my 2 acres. The ones with the river view. Sat on the hood of my car with a cold drink and watched the sunset. It was quiet. Peaceful. Exactly the opposite of everything he ever gave me. And for the first time in months, I smiled. Not out of revenge. Not out of victory. But because I knew the next part of my life. It had nothing to do with him anymore. But Reddit, if you think that's where it ends, you're wrong. Because 1 week after he died, I found something. Something that changed the entire story again. And it had nothing to do with Madison. Nothing to do with my dad. It had to do with my mom. And the real reason she never stood up for me until it was too late. The funeral was over. I stayed far away from it. Didn't want the fake prayers, the sad songs, the eulogies filled with lies. My dad had made his bed, and he died in it. But I thought that was the end of the story. Turns out, I'd only just scratched the surface. Because a week later, I got a call from a lawyer. Not mine. My father's estate attorney. Joel, we need to go over your father's will. I blinked. He had a will. Yes. And it specifically mentions you. I almost didn't go. I didn't want anything from that man. But curiosity got the better of me. So I showed up. The office was cold and too clean. The lawyer, an older guy with coffee breath and thick glasses, greeted me like we were old friends. He opened a folder, took out a stack of papers. Your father didn't leave you money, he said right away. In fact, the estate is nearly bankrupt. The IRS will eat up whatever's left. Good, I said. But he did leave you something. A box. He pushed a small, locked case across the table. The key was taped to the bottom. He nodded. Said it was for your eyes only. Said it would explain everything. I took it home. Left it on the counter for 3 days. I didn't want it. Didn't need it. But every time I walked past, it felt like it was staring at me. So finally, I sat down, opened the lock, and lifted the lid. Inside, a stack of letters. All handwritten. All addressed to my mother. From someone named Caroline. The top one was dated almost 30 years ago. I opened it, confused, and started to read. And within 10 seconds, everything I thought I knew about my family fell apart. Turns out my mom, she had a secret, a big one. Caroline was my dad's ex, from before he met my mom. According to the letters, they'd broken up when she got pregnant because my dad didn't want to settle down. But Caroline had the baby anyway. A girl, a daughter. That daughter? Born 6 months before my parents got married. The letters revealed everything. My mom knew about the baby from the beginning. Caroline had even reached out asking for help once when the little girl was sick. And my mom? She told her to go to hell. I kept reading letter after letter, jaw locked tight. My mom had convinced my dad to start fresh. No more past. No more old attachments. No more daughter. She even said in one note, if you want a real family, you let go of that mistake. Joel and Marcus deserve all of you. And he listened. He cut his daughter off. Never mentioned her. Never saw her again. But he kept the letters. All these years, in a box labeled JT Personal. I sat there for over an hour, staring at the name at the bottom of each note. Caroline Turner. And that's when something hit me. I knew that name. I opened Facebook, typed in Caroline Turner, added a filter by city. Second result, a woman in her late 50s. And next to her, a profile tagged Samantha Turner, early 30s, writer, book editor. She looked familiar, like eerily familiar. Brown eyes, same chin as my father, nose like Marcus. I clicked through her posts. One caught my eye, a selfie with a caption. Everyone says I look just like my dad. Wish I could have met him. My hand shook. I messaged her. Hi, Samantha. This is going to sound insane, but I think we're siblings. She didn't respond for 2 days. As she finally wrote back, I've waited 30 years for someone to say that. We talked for hours, shared timelines, names, stories, photos. She told me how her mom raised her alone, how she always wondered why her father never came back, how she eventually gave up looking. I told her about the wedding, about Madison, about Dad's death, and about the box. We cried together, total strangers, but connected by blood and lies. I confronted my mom, showed up at her house with the letters. She looked like she'd seen a ghost. You found them. You knew, I said. All this time, you knew he had a daughter, and you let him pretend she didn't exist. Tears formed. I was trying to protect you boys. No, I snapped. You weren't protecting us. You were controlling him. You let a little girl grow up without a father because it made you feel secure. Silence. I used to think he was the monster, I said. But you were the architect. She couldn't even deny it. I walked out. Again. And this time, I meant it. No more second chances. No more soft spots for people who pretend family is a weapon. I met Samantha the following week. We had lunch. We hugged. She's smart, sharp, kind. Everything I thought I'd never find in a sibling again. She asked me what I was going to do now. I told her the truth. Whatever the hell I want. With people who actually give a damn. So here I am, Reddit. 30 years old. No dad. No fiancé. No old house to go back to. But I got something better. Truth. And peace. And a sister I never knew I needed. You want to know the punchline? I took my 2 acres by the river and built a small cabin. Samantha helped design it. We call it the Reset. And that's exactly what it is. Not a revenge story. Not anymore. This was never about destroying them. It was about freeing me. And I've never felt lighter my entire life. Thanks for listening. Joel.